Ever pondered what might occur if the Christmas myths weren't precisely what we've been told? What if Santa Claus was something more darker and more dangerous than the cheerful and loving character we typically picture? Suppose Santa had a far more sinister mission than bringing gifts, gathering the souls of abused or abandoned children and transporting them in his sleigh on Christmas Eve. Doesn't it sound like a nightmare? But if you ever find yourself by yourself on Christmas Eve under the full moon, you might realize that there's something far worse than carols and presents. It's a horror that hides in the shadow of long-forgotten customs, something that bides its time in the shadows, waiting to seize innocence, which is what really counts. The Santa Claus in the legend I'm going to share with you today is not at all like the one you might think of. While the rest of the world celebrates Christmas with dazzling lights, Nicholas Black, a person whose story is unknown to the general public, has resided in the shadowy recesses of ancient tradition since time immemorial. He hides in the darkest corners of the night, away from celebrations and hope. There is no happiness or joy in Nicholas Black. Unlike the classic Santa Claus who slips down chimneys to leave gifts, his job is far darker. To gather the souls of neglected children, those who were never loved, and those who suffered abuse or abandonment. Nicholas Black rides on his flying sleigh, but this time it is loaded with souls rather than toys. He is supposed to take lost souls who are caught between life and death to a location they will never return to. But why? Why does he spend Christmas night wandering around the darkest and saddest homes? The explanation can be found in the past, when the holidays served as a reminder that life and death are entwined in their roots, as well as a time for celebration. Those who were afraid about what would happen to neglected youngsters, and those who passed away without love, were the ones who developed Nicholas Black. The Sigh of the Forgotten was created by Nicholas Black through a sinister pact that gave him powers, because the ancients thought that these souls needed to be saved, but not by an angel, but by something far darker, something that could go with them to their eternal resting place undetected. His sleigh, drawn by creatures that can only be described as shadows with fiery eyes, has a purpose far beyond simply gathering souls. He searches the world every Christmas in the coldest hours of the night for children who have never been loved or cared for whatever reason. The youngsters are transported to a world beyond human vision, where time stands still and darkness never ends. Not only does Christmas never finish there, but the suffering also never does. The most unsettling aspect of all is how the victims are selected. The sleigh, bearing the weight of lost souls, glides softly through the long night until it reaches the deepest darkness, where the children's souls are carried and never seen again. It's not only about people who have had a tough life, it's not only about poverty or melancholy. Another thing is what Nicholas Black is looking for: total desertion. The shadow of his sleigh hunts for the children who have been completely forgotten by love, who suffered in silence, and who were tormented in the most secluded areas of a home. It is believed that when Nicholas Black shows there, a child is utterly dehumanized, left to face their destiny in the icy apathy of the world, and there is no way out. They are taken by someone or something. The accounts of those who saw this terrible incident are told in terrifying testimonials. They are permanently marked, even if the sled does not take them. Nicholas Black's presence is so potent that it scars the soul of anyone who encounters it. When people realize that a being like him could be in his gaze, despair takes over. There is no hope, only emptiness. And that emptiness eats the children and everyone who comes into contact with him. People claim that the chill around his sleigh is so strong that they can feel death's breath on their necks, as though they are witnessing their own unavoidable future. Sophie, a little child, is the subject of a one-shilling account. Even though Sophie tried to catch her parents' attention, she never got the warmth she so sorely needed in her house, where love was a forgotten word, and there were more cries and shadows than hugs and smiles. There was no Christmas for Sophie, no lights and no presents. Her only solace was the window, where she could see the lights of the neighboring houses on the darkest nights, full of laughter and joy. However, on that particular Christmas Eve, as Sophie looked out the window, something caused her to turn around and see a shadow rose in the corner of her room. A sleigh that was dark and silent was floating in the air, and with it was a hooded figure who could only be described as Santa Claus himself, but not the one the others knew. He did not smile. His face was hidden, but Sophie could feel his eyes on her, evaluating her. When the girl tried to scream, the shadow was already over her, and she felt the coldest chill she had ever experienced, as if death itself were touching her. The shadow approached slowly, and Sophie realized that there was no way out of the situation. The apparition held out an icy cold hand as the sleigh came to a stop in front of her window. It whispered, almost inaudibly, "Come with us." But the girl knew she couldn't say no. Sophie was captured by the shadow, and in an instant, the slave disappeared into the night, carrying her to the place where the forgotten go to rest for all eternity. From that day on, Sophie's story became a local legend, and even though the years went by, the town's residents still look up at the sky every Christmas, fearing that the dark sleigh figure will return for those children who, like Sophie, were trapped in the cold indifference of a world that forgot them. The next story. Have you ever pondered what would happen if you received gifts from an unidentified source instead of your loved ones on the most anticipated night of the year? On Christmas Eve, picture how uncomfortable it would be to open a gift and discover something unexpected. Something that seems to have a far darker destiny for you, but has neither a name nor a sender. If you discovered that every gift you receive is linked by a perilous and old family curse that resurfaces every Christmas, how would you respond? The Thompson family is gathered around the dinner table on December 24th, as they do each year, to partake in a Christmas feast at their suburban Chicago home. The house is decked out with garlands and dazzling lights, and the aroma of pine permeates the living room. A dazzling star at the top, scarlet ribbons and golden ornaments are used to carefully decorate the Christmas tree. The evening goes by without incident. The family chats, laughs, and savors the little things that come with the holiday. But when the final member arrives and everyone gets ready to open their gifts, an odd occurrence occurs. The family looks toward the tree and discovers that 3 more presents have arrived, all beautifully wrapped but without tags or a sender. The door to the house closes softly, as though an unseen wind had pushed it shut. Ted is hidden in a tree nook, and no one recalls ever seeing them before the first gift. Despite being a little box, it seems oddly heavy. It feels rough, as though it were composed of an old material that has deteriorated with time. Curious, Emily, the youngest daughter, offers to open it and discovers an ancient porcelain doll covered in dust. Upon closer inspection, the doll's eyes appear vacant, yet something about them makes her shiver. The tiny piece of paper the doll is holding in her hands is what most disturbs her, even if it is wearing a tattered gown and a white lace headpiece. The scrawled words on the crumpled note read, "Remember what you lost." Emily tries to dismiss it with a nervous giggle, but there's something in the air that makes her uncomfortable. A little farther away, next to a stack of wrapped gifts, lies the second gift. This one is bigger, nearly as big as a TV box, and has a peculiar shape. The package is heavy, contains something metallic, and appears to have been quickly tied with a gold ribbon. Emily scoops it up and puts it on the table with her brothers. They find an old pocket watch with unidentifiable marks etched on it when she opens it. There is no dial on the watch. Instead, it is carved with odd symbols that resemble an archaic language. The watch has a little note next to it. The family gets nervous every year as it gets closer, discussing how these presents came to be. When the third and last gift is opened, nobody can rationally explain it. The house's vibe shifts. Almost the size of a shoebox, this one is smaller. Since one of Emily's brothers is silent, the entire family is quiet. When Michael opens it, they discover a golden medallion with an odd inscription on it. The medallion features an unknown symbol that is both unnerving and somehow instantly familiar. They discover a black and white picture of an odd family with the word "forgotten" engraved on it as they open the medallion. Each person feels a chill as they gaze at the picture, since the family in it resembles them so much. The same mother, the same father, and the same kids. But there's a startling detail. Their eyes have a vacant stare that makes it seem like they're warped, empty replicas of themselves rather than the same people. What starts out as a straightforward holiday mystery quickly turns into something much darker. As the night wears on and the family attempts to celebrate, an eerie heaviness permeates the air. No one knows why, but it seems like something is hiding there that links these gifts to an old secret that no one is willing to discuss. As the days go by, odd relatives start coming more frequently, as if the family is being watched from a distance. The porcelain doll appears to be staring at Emily with growing intensity as her dreams become bizarre, full of whispering voices and shadows. The curse gradually starts to show itself. The family discovers that a gift devoid of cinder has been there in their home every Christmas for generations. A fragment of an old family curse that has been resurrected every holiday season is contained in each of these presents. The medallion, the watch, and the doll are all just parts of a puzzle that is finished every Christmas Eve, adding to the family's misery and sadness. An old secret that the family's elder members have long kept hidden starts to surface. It's no coincidence that the gifts are connected. Every present has a function. They are all intended to trigger the curse that resurfaces every Christmas. Everyone remembers whispered stories from grandparents about an agreement that must be kept secret at all costs. But no one is certain when it began. The Thompsons have been affected by this covenant in every generation, and now it is Emily's and her siblings' time. The gifts always return as if they were placed back under the tree by an unseen force, despite the family's best efforts to destroy them. Emily sees a faceless figure in her nightmares that get more clear and realistic. She begins to realize that there is no way out as he whispers to her that the price must be paid. In a final effort to lift the curse, the phrases, symbols, and presents are all connected to the family and the evil that has been plaguing the Thompsons for centuries. Emily looks for clues in the house's old attic, where she discovers a dusty book about dark pacts and ancient rites. According to the book, the only way to lift the curse is to make a sacrifice, one that necessitates giving up something much more significant than a life. She must give up a priceless memory, a piece of her own soul. As the clock strikes midnight on this Christmas Eve, Emily must make the hardest choice of her life. Either break the cycle and sacrifice her family, or let the darkness devour them as it did generations before them. The story's last picture shows an enigmatic individual looking through a window, a chilly grin on its lips. Now it's your turn. To the breeze whispers, please remember to use the like button if this tale has prompted thought or if it has affected you in any way. For more tales like this, subscribe to the channel and leave a comment. If you ever receive a gift that doesn't arrive at your door, keep in mind that not everything is as it seems.